My name is Darryl Anderson. I'm with, two things. We've been introduced by the podcast, the Man to Man 360 podcast. One of my partners in that is Horace Everett. Horace is one of my key, what we call the all-stars on the show, who, I'll let him introduce himself, but one of the key things about Horace that I brought him onto the show was the fact that he's just real life, got a lot of sons, a lot of boys, and a lot of experience, and just nuts to bolts. And that's what I love about him. And he brings that valuable piece. And you probably heard that on the Boys to Men episode. But I'll let him introduce himself, and I'll introduce Curtis in a second.
Wow. Who am I? That's a good question. Well, I have many hats, I guess you could say. I'm a pastor at Miracle Outreach Church. I'm obviously on the podcast with Darryl and the two other guys, Brian and Warren. But I guess probably I'm a father. I guess that's probably my biggest, my number one role that I am. I have 3 boys, actually. And one of the things, I guess, and we'll probably get into it as we go along, but I guess I'm a Marine, so I talk really, really straight. And I don't really mince words, and I'm not a fan of, fanciness. There you go. So, and that's how I talk. I very talk, because I've used to also work in the jail ministry. I've done a lot of, I kind of consider myself a man of the street. I'm more of a street preacher. I like to just get at it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a fan of, I don't need a big crowd. I'm just nuts and bolts kind of guy. So I guess you want to talk about who I am.
Yep.
And did you get his last name in?
Yes, Horace Everett. Yep.
Right.
And so the other part of what I do is we do men's ministry, and the men's ministry that we launched a year ago is the Man Cave. And with the Man Cave, it's basically straightforward men's ministry. But over the summer, some guys were sitting in our living room, and one of the sons came. Wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be just the spouses, but they brought him anyway. And I looked and I said, you know what? This is the future right here. It's called Man Cave 2.0. And I said, what are you talking about? This is where we're supposed to be imparting to these young men here. And so about 6 months later after that, I was walking out of the church, and our youth pastor, Pastor Curtis, happened to say, hey, Eric, can I speak to you about something real quick? I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, I got this idea about mentoring young boys. I say, whoa, wait a minute. Did somebody in that living room talk to you? I was like, no. And so it hit off from there. But with that said, let me go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Well, I'm Curtis Little. I'm the youth pastor at Hope Christian Fellowship, and I've been there for about 6 going on 7 years in that capacity. So it's been a blessing working with the youth. And I guess for who I am, obviously a pastor, father, husband, but really just a man who just loves the Lord and loves my community, and just want to do all that I can to aspire other people to follow Christ, obviously, and then especially for our young boys, to teach them how to become men of substance. Amen. Men that can actually be productive, not only for their jobs, but for the kingdom. And how that translates both ways. You can be effective in kingdom on outside, if you will, the 4 walls of the church, and you can also be effective inside. So, but we need to teach them that it's not one or the other. Yeah. They work in conjunction.
Amen.
Yep. And before I get murdered, I'm also a husband and a father as well too. So I want to get that part.
I forgot about my wife. See, the young man has to teach. You know what? They say you can't teach an old dog trick. That is not true. Because actually I'm coming up on an anniversary, 27 years.
27, yeah.
Praise God.
So I've been,
27 over here.
so she is.
Sorry, you'll sleep outside tonight.
It's awfully cold then.
Yeah. I talk.
It's not a threat to a Marine.
Well, I talk myself into the doghouse regularly.
That led at the production day.
Yeah. I resemble that remark. So, Darryl.
Yes.
Tell us more about what you guys do on Friday nights in the Man Cave.
Yeah, actually, this Friday, it's every
I
second.
gotta get there. It's every second.
Yeah,
Friday.
every second Friday, 6 p.m. We have the Man Cave, and the Man Cave is literally based out of the scriptures in Samuel, where David hides in the cave of
Yes.
Adullam, and in that cave, while he was hiding in that cave, 300 men went there that were in debt, in trouble, and going through have some other problems. And those guys, when they walked out of that cave, however long they were in that cave, we call them the valiant men, but they were also, I like to call them, they were warriors. These guys were killers. And these were the guys that were the protection for Israel. That's super key once you understand that, but we can go deeper into that at a later time. But the Man Cave is where guys go in trouble.
Yeah.
We admit there's areas of our life that we are in trouble, whether it be in debt, in trouble, whatever, it doesn't matter. But at the same time,
We got stuff.
We got stuff.
Right.
But now what David taught, the scripture doesn't go into a lot of detail on that. But we know the type of man that David was. We know that he was a worshiper.
They were the outcasts.
They were the outcasts. These were the villains. These were look at that guy. But they came out valiant, powerful men that God was able to use in this new kingdom as David was going to become the king. And so the Man Cave is that very place where it's 2 hours of well, we have the 5 pillars. I mentioned this on the show before.
Yep.
The 5 pillars is this. It starts off with praise and worship. There's prayer and intercession. There's competition. Now, most people say, well, what does that have to do with ministry? It has a lot to do with, because that's what men do. Then we go into the word and break it out and whatnot. And then we end with food. And there's a lot of food, right? And so one of the things, so we had our first one, Man 2.0 last month. And one of the things I assured the guys, I said, listen, we have the young men here. And we're not changing this for them.
Right.
Because men need to have what men have. I was watching a Boy Scout commercial just the other day, and it showed a little girl like, I used to be a Boy Scout. Hold on now. Don't take all of our stuff. So leave this men. This is the purpose of this is so that young men get to see men, not for us to go see and chase them. No, you come see how men operate.
Healthy men.
Healthy men. You see how we compete.
Not perfect.
Not perfect.
Unflawed.
Not flawed. But you know what? I'll go one step further, Mike. I don't even throw out the perfect part because we never say
Such thing, right?
the imperfect part when it comes to moms
Right.
and mothers and women.
Right.
When it comes to men, we say, well, we're not perfect. Well, we don't say that we're women. So I like to leave it all out there. If we don't say it for one person, let's not say it for anybody because we already know we're not. But I'd rather say, man, but those guys are perfecting because we've seen so many flaws. Because we see guys on TV as perfect. We see that they had the perfect game, they had the perfect this, and we find out they're not perfect. I'm saying, no, that guy is about as close to perfection as possible because what? That guy is a father, he's a husband first, he did the right thing, he's striving to do right.
27 years.
27 years.
Well, and that's part of the conversation, right? I know, like with my sons, the conversation that we have is, I don't talk to them as boys. Because, once they reach a certain age, they're no longer a boy.
No.
They're men.
Yeah.
And I treat them as such.
When is that age?
Well, typically, I say 12.
Yeah.
So once you start chasing teenagers, you're a young man now.
Right.
Yeah, because we talked about that.
Yeah.
In the Jewish community, at 13, there's that bar
That's
mitzvah.
it,
There
that's
it
it,
is.
that's
Guess
it.
what? Put those childish things away.
That's right.
Our culture tends to treat them like kids until they're 30.
Oh, easily. Easily.
But the conversation is man, right?
Yeah.
When we talk, it's like, okay, some of the things we talk about, I always talk about is habits, right? Because part of the problem that people have or they struggle with or what causes them to fall is habits, right? So if you have a habit of doing something, whether it's good or bad, it's going to lead you to whatever direction you're going to be. So if you have a bad habit, meaning you eat poorly or you do something wrong and you consistently do it, it's going to affect you a certain way. So we need to change habits.
That's right.
So we talk about, okay, well, what's your plan?
Yeah.
So, and I like to use visuals, right? So my kids have dry erase boards in their room. So every day, what are the 5 goals you're going to accomplish for the day? So you're going to accomplish 5 things today. And what happens is now it's like treating that level of productivity. So then they'll say, well, I only got 3 of them done. Well, those 2 pushes till tomorrow. Now it makes my day longer because now
Seven
they
things.
start learning. Like, wait a minute,
These things add up.
I have to be effective.
It's accumulative.
Right.
That's right.
So I have to be disciplined and I have to be effective as I go through my day. So now you're teaching them at a younger age to be productive and like this is what a man does. Right. So and that's
You
part
don't stop
of growth.
until you check off the boxes.
No.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
That's good.
So yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So good.
Tell me about the competition part. So the competition part, like you said, there's a lot of today's culture. We don't keep score in soccer. Right? We don't. There are no winners or losers.
No.
Right?
Participation
Everybody
awards.
gets the participation trophy.
No.
Right?
No.
But that ain't healthy, is it?
No, it's not. It's not healthy at all. Because I remember one of the things when I met Pastor Gabano in Hope. One of the things I said to him is that do the guys argue here? I said because it's good to have good arguments. It's good to have arguments. Why? You say, well, why would guys be arguing at church? Well, why wouldn't it? Because we got scriptures to show days and days of arguing.
Be meek and
Be meek,
inherit the earth.
but argue. Because see, the argument shows the passion that guys have. Because do you have any guys wanting to be the leaders of these different ministries? No, because there's not enough arguing. Right. Because there's not the passion there of the competition. I think I could do it better, right? So when we have our what we call the icebreakers, the first one, for example, last year, and we did another one this past month, or last month, was just a simple tug of war. We have two teams. We have the Alpha team and the Omega teams. And they build up every month where we add guys to those teams. And then there's these different competition, whether it be the airplane making and who can shoot the farthest, or we had one of our guys, he owns a tree company, so he brought this 2-ton logs in there pretty much, and who can hammer the nail in that's about that big the fastest, right? But these competitions, one, they create camaraderie with the team, who throughout, from the one man cave to the next man cave, what are those guys doing? Calling each other and praying for each other, building up camaraderie there. And so the competition brings guys together, and it allows them to always think sharp, think competitively. That's it.
Well, because we argue all the time.
Yeah.
But he's my brother. I love him, right? But you know what? If we argue, that means I can't come at him if I don't got.
You gotta have your
I gotta
stuff.
make sure the scripture's right.
You gotta have your
So
stuff.
I can't say something in the same way, right? It was like, and sometimes.
Wait, yesterday you argued. Now I don't see that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like,
you gotta bring it. You gotta be accountable.
Well, he'll say, Horace, I researched this one. You can't argue me. But we go at it, right?
Yeah.
But that's what brothers do,
do.
right? And that's
But
iron sharpening
how
iron.
often do you leave enemies?
Oh, never.
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 Like you said, you become closer after.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No,
we know each other intimately.
Yeah.
And brothers, that's how you iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
like,
it.
we get at each other.
Iron sharpening iron is a friction.
That's right.
It's an irritation.
That's right.
It's painful for the sword.
Yeah.
It's painful for the rock.
That's right.
Right? It's painful for both, but in order for something to get sharp.
If I've never
right.
argued with you, we're not friends.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's how men show love, is by insult, right? If
That's
the
it.
insults stop, the love comes.
That's it.
There it is. Yeah.
Add on to that, Curtis.
No, well, I mean, so that's really huge for what we're doing with the boys now. Now bringing the boys into it, showing them a healthy version of what it looks like to be a man, right? But also giving them the opportunity to see men working in that process themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not a coming to a place where you see a finished product.
No.
And now I have no clue of how to get here.
Yeah.
But I can see there's a process. I can see the product in formation as it's being formed.
Yep.
And now I have an idea of, okay, this is how I need to be. Right? And so part of the issue that I think we've discovered lately in our society, especially with our boys and the infamy, if I can say that. With
I don't think you'll get
generation.
canceled on this show.
You're all right.
is because we don't have the male strong, challenging voice. Right? That's one of the things I provide for my son. And sometimes my wife, she gets a little uncomfortable.
Right.
But I have to remind her, that's my son.
Right.
I understand. You birthed him. But he came out of me first.
Right.
That's
You started that ball rolling.
so I take possession
Right.
of the responsibility to teach him how to be me. So that he's not fumbling around.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to do that when he becomes, quote unquote, a man according to the state.
Right. It's too late. Then.
It's too late.
It's too late.
It's too late.
Because a lot of the men that have come into your program didn't have a father, a healthy father figure himself. We're all a product of what we're modeled.
Yeah.
And if mom and grandma are raising a boy, we talked about,
Yeah.
you're already getting feminized on the
That's
way
it.
up.
That's it.
On because men are hardwired.
With good intentions,
right?
but
Right, and
but it's still
Maybe, right? The biggest problem is, and like I said, I've said it from the
You might as well go ahead and say it.
you're the problem, because what ends up happening is let him fall.
Yeah.
Or I've even seen it like when I used to coach football and I see the moms carrying the equipment. I'm like, what are you doing?
That boy carried that equipment.
If he's playing, he's
right.
carrying.
Yeah.
You know, you don't carry his equipment, you don't carry his water, you don't carry nothing. If he can't carry it, he can't play.
Right.
You know, and part of it is that's part of the struggle. That young men need to learn the struggle because they think, oh, here comes my mom's gonna come and help me, or my mom's, and then you see that's why you see 30-year-old, 40-year-old boys living in their mama basement, and it's because mama or grandma always fixes it, and it's like, man, I'm not fixing nothing. You better figure it out. Hard, I always tell my son, the hard way, the easy way. Which one you want? Because you're gonna get one of them. So you either do it the hard way or the easy way. So
You talked about, even back to Adam in Genesis. God instilled in Adam what he needed to do, and he equipped him for everything he needed to do.
Yeah.
And you rationalized it like it's a difference between owning a house and renting a house.
Yeah.
Because who picks up the shovel when it snows when you own the house? Is there any question?
Yeah.
Right.
There isn't.
Nobody expects mom to pick up that shovel.
No, nobody.
You already know that it's yours.
Right.
But if you're renting, then you expect it to be done for you.
Yep.
But the problem is, a lot of moms are shoveling.
Yeah.
That's sad.
the problem.
That's
In
sad.
the absence of.
But you know what, Bo? It still is disrespectful when you're 15, 16, 12,
Right.
and your mama shoveling the driveway.
That's
That shouldn't happen.
Right. That should not happen.
You're the man of that house.
Right.
Or cutting the lawn or whatever it is,
Right.
or even taking that trash
Somewhere
out.
in there,
Right.
he knows he should be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
But he knows what he can get away with.
But that's why you need that male presence there
Right.
to create that balance. Because naturally a woman feels like she has to nurture,
Right.
and nurturing can become what we would call babying after
Right.
a while.
Right. Right.
Right? Where now, okay, the nurturing
After
is
13.
Right.
over. Now he needs to get some
Right.
substance. He needs to understand responsibility.
Right.
So at a certain point, no, he needs to know what it means to put the dishes away.
Right.
He needs to know what it means to take the garbage out. I remember recently, over the past couple of months, I gave my son the responsibility of taking the garbage out. Now he's 10 years old. So my wife's looking at me like, why does he have to take the garbage out?
Because I told him.
There you go. But that's not fair.
Right.
Like, so what are you doing? Wait man. What am I doing? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who paid for the garbage?
Who's been doing? Let's go with that, right? But let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm teaching.
Preparing him.
Yeah.
Teaching. And showing you that this is my responsibility now.
Right.
See, you've got him to this point. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you. Now it's my turn.
Right.
This is what I've been waiting on.
Right.
I've been waiting for this.
Right.
And so,
Because your mandate is to train him up in the
That's
way
right.
he
Yes,
should
sir. Go.
So
Right.
you got to prepare because he's in 18.
one day he gotta go.
At 18, he's got to go. He got to go. I mean,
That's
that's the point.
right.
It doesn't mean you don't speak into his life, but
No.
that's now he's yours.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna train him up in the way he should go. To when he becomes 18, I have to let him go
Yeah.
and let him pray to God if he needs.
and
something.
see, and that part is very important because, see, I used to have this mindset, as soon as he gets 18, he's got to go. Well, I changed that thought. Because most of our boys today, they're not equipped to go at 18.
no.
So we send them out, and they're not ready to be a man. They're still boys. Because they haven't been taught nothing. They haven't been taught how to balance a bank account. They haven't been taught even how to create a bank account. Let alone, you know what I'm saying, manage money. You know, we haven't really given them how do you do life. Right? So we've been preaching to them. We got their soul saved.
Yeah.
But they don't know how does this work in relationship to me walking this salvation out in my everyday life apart from mom and dad. So if I haven't done that,
Yeah.
me kicking them
or
out,
if there was no one there to do that.
Right.
So now me pushing them out, what am I doing? Well, I'm sending him out to the wolves. I mean, he gonna get caught. No wonder why he don't know how to act. No wonder why he's beating his girlfriend. No wonder why he don't know how to stick to one girl. No wonder why he's sowing his oats everywhere. He doesn't understand. He's never been trained.
That's all human nature. If you're not taught otherwise, we're all going to do just that.
Well, it goes back to the habits, right?
Right.
And that was the conversation I had with my son when he turned 18, and you've met him, you know how he's a serious dude. But I sat him down and I told him I said, son, you're 18 now, and the days of me telling you what to do are over. And he was like, what that? You know, he got nervous, he got scared. I said, no.
Hey,
Now our roles have changed. It's more of I'm a mentor. You come to me, we can discuss what it is what your the goals, your desires are, but the ultimate decision is yours. You have to make the decision now. And you have to decide where it is you want to go, what it is you want to do, and how you're going to do it. But me telling you, that's over.
Yeah.
And he looked at me like,
That's a lot of responsibility.
right. He got scared, but
and you have to be willing to let him fail at it.
right. He's in college now. He's doing fine, but that freshman year was horrible. He struggled, but I just sat back and like, go for it.
It's fall on your head.
Right. You'll be all right.
Okay.
But you know what? You're on the dorm.
True.
They got food.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah, you won't die. You won't die.
My wife's like, we should bring him home.
Oh, so
He's fine.
But see that's he's the consult. That's the consultant stage. My son's older. He lives now in Tampa right now, and one of the things. So he and his mom talk a lot on the phone. But then when I get the phone calls, it's usually a problem. Yeah, it's a problem. Right? And it's like, okay, here it comes, right? And so I said, listen, this is the thing. So any advice or whatever I give you doesn't work like 100% of the time. He's like, 100% of the time. It never fails. I said, okay. So why don't we try not waiting for the red alert, right? And just start making those phone calls a little earlier, right? For just everyday questions or whatnot. If you're dealing with some things, some new challenges, right? Because your mother's going to give you that comforting, and it's not, and I'm going to be honest with you, and let me say this straight to where's the mic and the camera? Going back to what he said. Typically, moms and grandmas are wrong.
Right, yes. Well, because they're not a man, right? And I've said this one.
That advice is wrong because it cannot, they're putting that round peg into that square hole, and it just don't work. She means it. She loves you.
Oh, she means well.
Oh, she means well.
Right.
It might be right for her.
It might be right for her
daughter.
Right.
It might for her daughter, but she's giving you bad advice. There was a young man I used to work with. We was sort of, he was an intern, but I sort of pulled him to the side, sort of mentored this young guy. He was probably, I think he was a college age kid. And he had some issues with a girlfriend or something like that or whatever it was. And he said, well, yeah, my grandma tells me this. I said, come here. I hate to say this, but your grandma's been giving you bad advice. This is not what you do. This is what men do. And we talked for maybe an hour or so then and different days in that week. And he came and he said something I've never heard before. He said, I've never heard a man talk to me like that before. I said, was it good information? Oh, it's awesome. I want to come back tomorrow, right? And so women, unfortunately, at a certain point, my favorite movie, 300. I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago and watched the movie just for that sake, right? And I think it's the Agogo or Ago. I might be getting the word wrong, but there's that point at age 12 when they rip the child, the boy, from the mother, and they send him away for 3 years in the wilderness. And he either lives or dies. Right? But all that mom stuff is done. It's all over.
When he comes back, man.
He's not even under her anymore. And so ladies, just understand your information is wrong. You love them, continue feeding them or whatever and showing love, but it's over. Because see, at this point, this is where, whether it be a man cave, men's ministry, mentorship, any of this, that young man, and I think, like you mentioned earlier, he's gonna get his advice from the either good or bad, but he's going to get the thing that he's been looking, that he's going to get that iron sharpening iron from somewhere.
Right.
From somewhere.
And we talked about, a mom's hardwired for nurturing,
Yeah.
always will be. She's always going to be her default.
Yeah.
And a man is hardwired for discipline.
Yeah.
And the verse that proves that is Proverbs. I think it's 16:9 or 13. Can't remember the number. Proverbs says, a father who spares the rod hates his son.
Yeah.
So a father who disciplines his son, who doesn't discipline his son, hates his love.
Yeah.
And now flip that back. A father shows his son love by disciplining him.
Yeah.
And the mom is usually, because she's hardwired for nurture, incapable of giving that young man the discipline that he needs when he needs it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. This actually is a true story. My son, he was sitting with it was my wife and my mom, and my wife asked him, why is it when I tell you something, you give me a hard time, but your dad can walk in and say the same exact thing and you'll do it? And he goes, well, he'll hurt me. So my mom goes, well, he just told you what the deal is.
He can back it up. He doesn't have to say it twice.
Right. He's like, well, but that has always been, and I think sometimes we misunderstand. It's not that I will hurt him, but he knows that, I got to do what dad says because, well, he's dad.
Right.
And he sets the rule. He sets the tone. But my wife did say this, and, because I think we did a show about where happy wife, happy life, or something like that.
Yeah.
But my wife says, she even says, that is not true.
No.
She goes, because we all know how you are is how the house is. So if you're in a bad mood, the whole house is in a bad mood. So you set the tone for the house. And that's being a man. Today, when I was riding with my youngest, I was picking him up from practice, and we were talking. And I told him that a man has to be a rock, and he has to be firm, and he has to stand his ground, even when things aren't going his way. And we were talking about Job, and we were talking about how Job, how God had the devil was saying, hey, you've got a hedge of protection around him. You're preventing me from doing stuff, and God removed it so he can do what the devil does. Because the devil's like, hey, he will curse me. And that's what I was telling my son, a man will stand firm.
And what's the wife telling him?
Well, that's what I told him. I said it got to the point where the wife says, why don't you curse God and die? And I said, and that's going to happen, son. You're going to be in a situation where you're going to be, your woman is going to tell you to quit. Right. And there's going to be people around that's going to tell you to quit. But if you're a man never quits. He stands his ground and he fights for it. Even when everybody around him's telling him that, oh, this is crazy, this ain't gonna work. Think about Noah when he's building the ark. People tell him he's nuts, right? But he did it because God told him to.
And none of this means that the mom is any less important.
No. I was just gonna say. Even in that story, she still meant well because if it wasn't, then she would have probably been wiped off the planet. But we see where again her and him still gave birth to several kids after that. Right. So she wasn't cursed off the planet. Right. She was only remarking for the fact that she just lost all her kids.
She didn't want to suffer anymore.
Well, that and she was still hurting from losing her kids too, right? And her family.
But that kid, after the discipline, knows he can go get a cup of cocoa from mom later. Right? And that's that he can get that comfort.
Yeah.
Because if mom's gone, he doesn't have the ability
Yeah.
to get the comfort, and that can be just as traumatizing.
Yeah.
You need both. Both are important.
It is.
Right.
It
Well,
is.
Mom, and that's why I always tell them too. I got my son, the one who's away in college. I said, you know what? You have to call your mother regularly. You don't have to call me regularly.
No.
But
No.
at least once a week.
Just don't wait for the red alerts.
Right. But at least once a week, you need to call your mom
Yeah.
and tell her you're eating and that you did your laundry.
Yeah,
All of
she
that-
don't worry. She
all,
don't worry.
all of that good stuff, right? You need to call your mother. So, like you're saying, mothers are important. Their nurturing is necessary because I always tell them. We joked about it. My son was like, "Dad, if you got like super emotional, that would be like weird. I would think you were dying or something." So
Yeah, don't do that.
so he's like,
Don't do that.
Dad, just be Dad. So
Be
my
that
kids
rock.
are just used to me how I am,
Right.
and they expect stuff, but they know if I need something or I'm in trouble,
Yeah.
I can go to him because he will solve it.
So we're getting to the point where we want to kind of wrap it up, and what I'm hearing is that what this band of brothers has kind of learned along the way when it comes to how do we mentor our young men in our church is you create an opportunity where the men can come and be the men, invite the young men so that they can watch and learn and witness the men being men.
Yeah.
And include them as men,
Yeah.
not as boys.
Yeah.
You're men. When you come in here,
Yeah.
You're a man.
you strap on your boots because
Yeah.
you're going to be treated like a man,
Yeah.
and you're going to learn like a man.
Yeah.
What I miss.
Growing up, and you guys, you know what I'm talking about. There would be situations where there might be dad and my uncles or whatnot, right? And depending on how old I was, you'd go towards them and say, hey, this grown man talk.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so today we think, we shouldn't do that today. No, you actually should still do that today. Because I still think men should supposed to have a safe place, if you want. I hate that word, but I'm using that for a
We
reason.
can be men.
Or we can just be
Talk like
men, and then everything's not going out somewhere, right? But at the same time, there are times when it's, hey, boy, come here.
Yeah.
And so that's where man came and said, hey, boy, come here. I want you to see this.
Yeah.
And so this is when these young men are invited in to see and learn. Now, with the man cave, and I have to reassure the guys of this. Well, are they going to be in for everything? I said, well, yeah. I said, but if something gets crazy, then we got good judgment.
Right.
Okay, so so we're not gonna. So I have to still protect the safety of the men that nothing's getting out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we want those young men to see as much as possible, right? And so that's really not the dilemma, but that's the thing that we're working with. We want these young men to be invited in to see something. Yo, check this out. This is how we do this.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Whether it be, my dad taught me how to do breaks, or some of those types of things. Or this is how you put a real bait on the hook. I mean, that kind of whatever it is, and he's showing you insight on some things. Then, hey, come here. I want you to see it. Because for men to have to go where the boys are, why? There's nothing I want to see kids do.
Right.
But boys always want to see what men are doing because we're doing the more exciting things.
Right.
So, I want to see what they're doing. That's something exciting. That's something that could take me
drive
to
a boat.
Oh yeah, drive a car in the sports car, whatever it is. But whatever it is, they're doing something fun over there, and I want to go over there. And that's the environment we want to create where they come on and check that out.
And the other component that they're learning is the accountability
That's it.
of the brothers.
That's it.
right? So because that's what they lack.
Yeah.
Typically as boys,
Yeah.
they lack that amongst each other.
Yeah.
What friends really held you accountable?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you were a young man,
Right.
If anything, we encouraged you to jump off.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? jump out of that window.
Yeah.
2 stories
I
up.
dare you to
But there was nobody there to hold you accountable.
Right.
Whereas now in here, we're teaching them that a part of becoming a man is understanding that you need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Just like you said, you're gonna have your stuff. You're gonna have your issues.
Right.
But now that's what your brothers is here for,
Right.
as a resource that when I have my stuff, when I have my issues, I don't suffer in silence.
That's right.
See, because I
right.
think that's a false message that I think we've allowed to be
That's it.
sent, is that men suffer in silence. We just don't, we hold it in. No, that's wrong.
No.
When a man does that, he's prone to hurt himself
Yeah.
Right.
or
And
somebody
others.
else.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But when a man has another man
Yeah.
that he can work that friction
right.
out with, now I can grow. Now those spurs can
That's
get
right.
brushed off, and I can get more refined.
Well,
But that's also when you see him, like you mentioned, when you see him looking solid, man, Dad, I didn't see you emotional. Yeah, not there.
right.
but there's a secret place.
Right.
In that time in prayer or whatever. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say just that level of confidentiality, right?
That's
That's
it.
the huge piece.
That's
Because that's probably the biggest thing that we teach one
That's the
another
biggest part.
is that I could say something to you,
Right.
and I ain't got to hear about
No.
it later.
No.
There you go.
You know, like
There you go.
I even get it. My wife's like, "What y'all guys talk about?"
I love when they do that.
It's
Like,
I'll
nothing.
ask you what you and your girlfriends talk
No,
about.
I don't want to know.
And don't want to know, right? But you know what though?
Yeah.
They do talk.
They
right?
do talk.
So, but what we talk about,
Yeah.
that's us,
Right.
and that's between us. And now that builds that bond,
Yeah.
right? Because like I can trust you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now I could be vulnerable too.
Right.
Because that's like you were just saying. A lot of guys hold stuff in
No.
until they get to that breaking point,
Yeah.
and it's like because they don't have anybody that they can confide in, and that's a dangerous place
It's a
to be.
dangerous place.
How about questions? Any questions from the handsome group auditorium here?
I can't think of anything offhand. Cover a lot of ground.
Come on, man. I've never heard you not have something to say.
It's not that I don't have anything to say. They did make a lot of good points. For me personally, as I told King when he invited me earlier, I'm going through things of similar in my own life, right? And the positive side, I have people like him that I can pick up the phone and call. He knows that I come from a line of a lot of strong male, but when it comes to my immediate family, there's a lot of women. You know? So I was guided and helped by a lot of women, and it was always been my strong suit, honestly, because it gives me the opportunity to sit and listen. And then when I do get around men, I find myself talking because I don't want to hear you tell me what you believe is
Yeah.
the right way to go.
Yeah.
Because there might be things in your path that I saw and I'm like, yeah, I don't really agree with that. So it puts a strain on me because now I have media that's telling me how men are supposed to be. And it creates this huge, how do you say it, overbearing weight on you in a sense. Because now you feel like you have to prove to the next man that I'm capable of doing certain things. And then you look on this side, they tell you, oh, a man has to have some sort of feminine in his body.
That was the episode 2, I think.
Coexist with other male, and honestly, being in these kind of rooms and having a word to say here and there gives you a sense of like responsibility when you walk out of here and you go and you see other boys doing things and you're like, okay, you're not really supposed to do that. And because of that concept of having a lot of female around me, now I have young men that's growing up or that are my age coming to me for advice. And it's very difficult because you're asking yourself, do I want to tell this person the truth? Are they going to take it the right way? And then you have some that are younger than me are having babies. And you're like,
Yeah.
So they have to guide another generation. Their generation hasn't even hit the peak of understanding, and they're jumping over to something.
I want to sort of answer or piggyback where he's going, though, is that the fact that, and I think we've talked about this definitely. So the first thing is who defines masculinity?
Right.
So in the world, they actually have a definition, but it ain't right.
Right. It's toxic.
and see, and so because we'll see, like you see these posters of men and they're real bulked up. And for brothers, they got the dreads and all that and all that, and that looks cool. But it's like, nah, the dudes I know that is real masculine is fat, and skinny, and short. Them some tough dudes. I mean, they come in all kinds. And they ain't a lot of muscle and some muscle, and And so we've created this image of what men should get to, and it looks like a Rambo movie, and none of that's true. And at the end of the day, that movie lasts for an hour and a half, but the real men last for 50, 40.
Inner strength.
There's no inner strength. These men outlast. They're still around. They die.
Right. Well, and I don't have a feminine side. My feminine side is called my wife.
Right.
There's nothing feminine about me.
That's the thing about it. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're
fine.
No, you're good.
That's the perfect identity of it.
Right.
Now, when you don't teach that, because my culture, it goes from, there is no idea of saying, I have a girlfriend.
Right.
You understand that? You come from your family, and then you get married. Or as a male, you marry someone.
Right.
That becomes your feminine side.
Right.
You understand? But in the world that we're living in, with the media and everything, and the culture that I'm involved in at the moment, you have female friends, girlfriends, fiance, and a wife. So you have to play all these roles just to become a dominant man.
100 ways to get tripped up.
Right. That's it.
Well, and then plus you have the battle, right? Because you have women trying to tell you
Right.
how this is what a man does.
Right.
Like, where you get that from?
We get
Oh,
that
we
from.
even told you that.
Yeah.
Here's the snow shovel. Here, go ahead.
You know what? And I got in trouble. I had to sleep on the couch for a while, but I told my wife, I said, when you learn how to stand up and pee without peeing on your feet, then you can tell me how to be a man.
Yeah.
So, because you can't, I can't tell you about being a woman because I don't know. I don't have feminine parts.
Yeah.
But I can tell about being a man
Yeah.
because I know, I learned. Well, first of all, I used to think I was a man, and then I started reading the Bible, and I realized that I was not. So then I started finding out, like, oh, everything that I thought a man was, I was none of it. Right. So then I had to change my life, and I had to, align myself with God, because every time, that's the first thing I always ask guys too when they say stuff. I'm like, what is your relationship with Christ like? Do you have one? If you don't, fix that first.
Yeah.
So that's really what it starts with. Because God defines us, right? He defines us as men. Yeah. So you have to develop that relationship to understand what a man is, what your role is, what you're supposed to do. So
the whole culture is driven to feminize men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because if the enemy wants to take out the culture, he's got to take out the men.
Yeah.
And in a culture where all the men are convinced that they're supposed to be women, and all the women are convinced they're supposed to be boys, all you've done is lowered the bar, so there's no masculinity anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
There's no true
masculinity is bad.
And I would say that comes out of a response for, if you could even say such a thing, the over masculation of the previous generation.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
If I can say that.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
We were taught, again, suffer in silence. Men, there's just, this over masculinization of the man. And then especially when you don't have Christ, when you don't have God to help you to understand that balance of the masculinity of a man. Yeah. But the man also is responsible to nurture.
Right.
There is a masculine nurturing nature to a man. You just have to know how to tap into it, and it's not feminine like the woman's nurturing, right? But there is a masculine version of nurturing, and we see that with God, right? And so He's our first example of what it means to be a father, and we can see that God is not always this tough, hard guy.
No.
It's not who He is,
No.
right? Overall, that's how we see Him, because it's what we're really seeing is His strength, right? Is that He's stable, He's consistent, that exudes strength. But in the process of that, we see Him weeping, right? We see Him in pain. We see Him suffering.
Right.
So
it's Ephesians. It's the contradictory profile of Ephesians 5. Husbands, submit to your husbands and respect your husbands. and husbands, love your wife as Christ died for the church. In other words, but I always said that should, in my book, in the Hennessy Uninspired version, that's going to be first. Because in order for the wife to submit, the husband first has to die to her for her to be secure enough to submit.
Right.
And what the husband's doing by dying to her is submitting to her. And it's it's submit to each one to another.
Right.
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 And that takes humility, and it takes vulnerability, and it takes. And that's the strength.
That's right.
Humility is the power position in the kingdom.
That's right.
Pride is the power position in the world.
That's right.
And humility is the power position in the kingdom.
That's right. I want to piggyback too, because he said something powerful there as far as the over masculine. There's a definition for that. It's called machismo. So machismo is the over exaggeration of masculine, and the only reason you get machismo is because you've never seen a real man. So you have to try to make him, and so
Machismo never submits.
it never submits, and he always wears blue, and he's never. And see the problem. So let's ask the question: where did machismo come from? Machismo came from, because remember you said that boy will seek out a man. Right. There's one of two. The problem though is because of the fall of man, evil men have been defined as being more masculine.
That's right.
Loving men have been defined as being, well, he's sort of maybe weak.
Yeah.
No, that man's not weak.
Right.
And so what happens is we've pointed and we've painted these men, now that's a real man. Bam, he's just beat that woman. Oh, but he loves me. No, no. So we machismo, over-exaggeration of masculinity is a false identity of not seeing the Father and following his attributes.
We talked about it. What did Christ do at the cross? He submitted to his
Good
Father.
point.
He submitted to the Roman Empire. He submitted to the men who were. He laid his life down. John 15.
Yep.
No greater love than a man lay down his life for his friends.
That's right.
And he put himself on the cross. And what happened? The earth shook. The earth quaked. The veil ripped. The sun went dark. And we changed the way how we tell time.
That's right.
It was the most powerful. The humility. His humility was the most powerful force of the universe, which changed the world forever since. Yeah. But we still hate humility because the world teaches us its weakness. And if you want to show your strength in the world, you have to show them your pride.
Right.
And it's the opposite. Pride is the root of all sin. Yeah. I will be like the Most High. I will rise above God. That's right. Lucifer. The first sin was the 5 I wills. Pride.
That's right.
And you tapped into something, because when we take that example, understanding that if Christ had operated in his pride when he was in the garden, because remember, in the garden, he was pouring out the fact that this is not what I want to do.
Right.
Take it from me. Don't make me do this.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
I know you sent me here. I know this is my objective. But now
it's coming
that
down
I'm face
to it.
face with it, this is not what I want to do.
He surrendered to his Father.
But not only did he surrender, this is the part that we miss as men, and then especially as husbands at times. He surrendered even in the moment when we weren't deserving.
Right.
See, that's one of the reasons why he didn't want to do it. Because he looked at the cup, he saw your sin, he saw your sin, he saw my sin. He's like, well, that's what they did. I didn't do none of that. You know what I'm saying? Right. So why are they deserving of my death?
Yeah.
We weren't.
You solely hit that with God, and then what our roles as fathers, right?
That's where I'm going. so as we learn how to be men, learning how to be men is also learning how to sacrifice, to suffer, even when my family may not deserve it. Right. So my wife may not deserve me holding my tongue.
Right.
Because if you was a man, you said that to me, it'd have been a different story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then also learning how to hold back from, sometimes we can over-discipline.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not deserving of my grace. You deserve a butt whooping right now.
Right.
But
I'm not going to give you what you deserve.
I'm not going to give you what you deserve. I'm going to show you some mercy this time.
Yeah.
Come and teach a lesson.
Yeah.
Well, and when it comes to humility in regards to my wife, God showed me that, say we're arguing over where my son's going to go to camp. I think it's this camp and you think it's that camp. And I think, okay, we're arguing. Okay, we're going to stop. We're going to take 24 hours. You go pray. I'm going to go pray. We'll come back and we'll settle this. Yeah. And I try to, every time I do this, God shows me. So you know what? I've been praying about it. I still think I haven't changed my mind, but we're gonna go with your decision on this. And once she hears that, Once she hears that submission from me, now she has the confidence in the relationship,
Right.
because that's what it's always about. It's always about, do I have confidence in this relationship in order to submit to
That's
it?
right.
Ephesians 5 again.
right.
So as soon as I show her I'm willing to submit, she's willing to say, oh no, I decided already that you were right.
Yep.
Because now she can
Right.
and still feel secure enough in the relationship.
Which is that's typically with women, that they need that security and trust. That I need to trust that you are going to be that strong man that I need. And you know, and I think, to be honest, that's probably why I've been married so long, because I am kind of rocky.
Right.
And my wife's like, he doesn't really change much. He's
But if we
difficult.
didn't learn this stuff, we wouldn't have made it to 27.
No. Like it was. I would say probably the first 5 to 7 years, it was just grace.
Rock.
It was grace because I was terrible. But I just praise God that I developed a relationship with him, and then, like you said, you see how it works within your family, that family dynamic, because they see as you follow God.
That's right.
Oh wow,
That's
we're
right.
gonna get in line with him. We may not always, like you were just saying, agree,
Right.
but he's the captain, and
He's
as long as
willing.
he's following God,
And it
we're
works.
gonna follow
every
him.
time. It works. It works.
All right.